Personally, I really don't think that we should be pushing children to try and decide the rest of their lives when they're only 5 years old or 10 years old or so on, and then try to convince them that if they don't come up with whatever life goal they want before they finish high school and before they go on to college, then their life will be ruined. I've actually hated the schooling system since I was maybe in elementary school. I actually noticed from an early age that everything that was related to my schooling felt like I was selling myself, like I was trying to commercialize my very existence. Because if I didn't commercialize my existence, then I wasn't going to get a job and I wasn't going to be able to survive. I needed to sell myself. And they constantly said that to me too. Sell yourself. Why don't you sell yourself? You need to sell yourself. You need to really sell your point. You need to really make yourself marketable, etc., etc. I felt like I was a slab of meat at the market when I was in school, and it made me very disillusioned to the entire idea of schooling itself. I actually would go and I would pick things that I felt like I possibly could do for the rest of my life, just because I felt like I had to fulfill some sort of expectation that I would have those goals. I would say, I'll be an artist, I'll be this, I'll be that. But realistically, I never wanted to do those things as work because those were my passions. I wanted to find something that I could be passionate about working for without actually being passionate about it as like a hobby, as something that I just wanted to enjoy and like indulge myself in. Because I feel like I never really wanted to do that with artwork. If I tried to make my art into something that was commercialized and something that I was working towards, then I would lose a lot of the passion from it. I would lose the thing that made it special to me. I would lose my reason for doing it because it would just become another form of income. That feeling perpetuates everything when you're younger. You have to get good grades because if you don't get good grades, you won't get into a good college. If you don't get into a good college, then you're not going to get a good job. If you don't get a good job, then you're not going to have a good life. When you are young, you are forced into thinking these things, and you can basically not think of even being a child. You can't think of trying to learn new things and find yourself and try to experiment during the formative years where it would matter most. You can't really think about that sort of stuff because you have to think for your future. It's always about your future, and it's never about your present, and it's never about who you are or who you want to be or finding yourself or trying to figure out those passions. It's always about pushing you towards what is the finale? What is your grand finale going to be? You need to be thinking about the conclusion right now. I think it can be incredibly dangerous too. I had a friend once who, during basically his middle school and his high school years, he did a ton of AP classes because his parents wanted him to get really good grades so that he could potentially have other alternatives for jobs later down the line. But he decided at some point during his schooling that he really wanted to be in the military. Once he finished high school, he went to go and sign up for the military, but the testing that they did, the physical tests that they did, discovered that he had actually developed issues from doing those AP classes, from all of the stress that he had endured throughout that part of his life. He could never be a part of the military because it had damaged his body physically, because his parents were so consumed by the idea of him having a good future that they pushed him so hard that they ruined him. This isn't even something that's uncommon. I think a lot of it stems from adults. I think adulthood is inherently to think about your younger years, and I think it is to think about the things that you could have done better and that you wanted to do better and that you really wish you could redo. And I think we pushed a lot of that onto younger generations and try to push them into figuring it out early so that they can enjoy their life later on. But I feel like we do it incorrectly. We end up pushing it so hard onto them that it makes them feel like they are not really people. At least that's what I felt like when I was younger. I felt like I didn't matter as much as what I could sell to people. And now that I'm an adult, honestly, I still kind of feel that way. I still feel like a lot of worth is based on what my work is right now, or like where I'm going with it, or what the future is, what are my goals, and so on. You can't really just live and find yourself as a person, partially because of, well, I mean, we live in such a commercialized society that that's just how it is. But I feel like when I was younger, it damaged me a lot more than it did now. I think now I'm a lot more well-rounded as a person, and I can kind of deal with that kind of attention on me. But at the time, it pushed me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have. It pushed me to feel things that I otherwise wouldn't have. And I think it really psychologically was just such a weight to try and figure out my life when I was that young that it meant that I didn't experiment as much as I could have. And I actually regret not doing more, not because I couldn't have a better job and a better life in that way, but because I was so consumed with trying to figure out what I was going to be in the future that I couldn't live in the present. I despise the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I feel like it's not about what we want to do when we grow up necessarily. It's about pushing people to decide early. Because if they decide early enough, then maybe they'll have extra time. Maybe they'll have more to their lives than we have as adults, regretting everything in the past, regretting all of our past decisions and all of the things that we could have been and could have done. I think that what we really need to do is we need to ask children what they like, what they want to do, what they feel like could be fun in their lives, and then slowly start to push them towards if they want to make that into a job. Oh, you really like this. Oh, you're really into fashion stuff. Did you know that there are jobs that are related to fashion? Oh my God, you really like writing. Did you know that you could actually like do writing as work? Did you know that you could like be an author someday? We can do that sort of stuff. But I think if we pose the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? It puts a pressure on trying to find that above all else. It puts this pressure on people to try and think of themselves as their jobs and nothing else. And it means that they won't really explore other possibilities that wouldn't necessarily make them money. All of this also pushes a person into thinking that there's only one thing that they can do, and if they've failed at that task, then they've failed as a person. I think that it's fine if you start something. If you think, I want to be a doctor someday, and you start the schooling for that, and you go through everything, and then you get to the point where you have been a doctor for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and you decide, I don't like this. I think it's fine that you can change. You can change at any point in your life. You can learn new things at any point in your life. And I don't think that we tell people that when they're young. I don't think they realize that they don't have to pick one thing forever, and they don't have to have only one skill that defines them as a person. They can be anything that they want to be at any point in their lives, and they can start learning to be that thing at any point in their lives. You, as a person, can learn to do anything. If you really, really don't like where you're at right now, just learn something new. Start again. You can keep trying. This is your life.